and a very warm welcome to ThaiPBS English News Service. I'm Supoj. A powerful typhoon known as Vincente slammed into the Chinese Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong earlier today, injuring dozens, disrupting communications, and bringing businesses to a standstill. Meanwhile, the Thai Weather Bureau warns the wrath of this storm, despite having been downgraded to a tropical storm, could hit Thailand anytime between now and this Friday. Typhoon Vincente made a landfall at 4 a.m. Hong Kong time, or 3 a.m. Thai time. For the first time in 13 years, the Hong Kong Observatory issued its number 10 hurricane signal, the highest category. Hong Kong authorities say 129 people were injured before the sun came up, 72 of which had been admitted to hospital. People and trees were battered by heavy rains and fierce winds. Flying debris struck the central business district, and subway stations around the territory were converted into contemporary shelters and to accommodate stranded passengers. At midday, major banks and businesses in the bustling central district remained closed. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange stopped trading in the morning and only resumed after lunch. Dozens of flights inbound and outbound were either cancelled or delayed, leaving hundreds of passengers sleeping in the terminal. Ferry services linking Hong Kong Island with Kowloon and outlying islands were also suspended, while train services had to be rescheduled. The observatory lowered the hurricane signal to number 3 as the strong winds had begun to move away from Hong Kong towards China's Guangdong province. The wind speed has now decreased from typhoon strength to a tropical storm. Meanwhile, the Meteorological Department says that some of the effects of Vincente could hit Thailand anytime between now and Friday. Authorities have put already flood-prone provinces on high alert, especially the north and northeastern residents living close to the hills. The two regions have a higher than 70% chance of rain. Farmers are also preparing to harvest their rice earlier than scheduled, fearing the massive rain will down their crops. Meanwhile, residents of Laxi district right here in Bangkok gathered at the district office to demand more flood compensation cash. Meanwhile, some 400 companies, Thai and foreign, are likely to bid for the 350 billion baht worth of water management and flood prevention projects. Professor Surasawadi, as Minister of Science and head of the Water Resources Management Committee, emphasized the government's transparency in distributing TORs, or terms of reference, to 398 companies for flood prevention projects. Of that figure, 329 were Thai and 47 were foreign companies or foreign embassies. The minister appeared together with members of the Council of State, which offers legal advice to the government, to insist the bidding process is clean and legal. Some members of the Engineering Institute of Thailand had been accusing the government of lobbying to have standards of the construction in the TORs set in such a way that foreign companies would win the lion's share of the 350 billion baht budget, claiming it would offer more chances for corrupted activities. The government denies such claims, adding that Thailand needs the best systems to protect its citizens from future floods. Meanwhile, some 500 citizens from the Laxi district gathered at their district office today, demanding more flood compensation cash appropriate to the actual damage caused. Laxi was one of the worst hit flood disaster zones, with almost the entire district submerged in the 2011 floods. Some have not yet received a single baht. The district office director says that he will ask the Bangkok office to compensate every household in Laxi at an across-the-board rate of 20,000 baht. Protesters say if they do not receive the money within 10 days, they will come and close down the district office on the 7th of August. And despite tough measures by security officials in the Deep South, the Army commander admits there are loopholes and mistakes have been made. Meanwhile, military unit in Narathiwat came under a bomb attack, injuring at least one soldier. A soldier of Teachers Security Unit in Narathiwat was injured when a bomb went off as they were patrolling an area in Rangya district. Soldiers are on the hunt for the culprits, but there are currently no reports of the capture of any suspects. Army Commander Prayut Chan-o-cha was also in the southern province of Narathiwat today to follow up on a car bomb and other attacks which occurred recently. Despite the officials doing their best to secure the restive south, the Army Commander admits that there are still loopholes and mistakes in the security process. Soldiers will now increase checkpoints in the south, install more security cameras, and join with locals in curbing violence. The Ministry of Public Health has confirmed that hand, foot, and mouth disease was the cause of a 2-year-old infant's death last week. The Public Health Ministry confirmed today that the strain of hand, foot, and mouth disease known as enterovirus 71 type B5 did play a role in the death of a 2-year-old child at Noparat Ratchathani Hospital in Bangkok. The strain is unusually mild, but doctors say that the toddler had a severe asthma and a high fever, which exacerbated her condition. The combination of illness contributed to an inflamed heart condition, which eventually killed her. Dr. Prasad Thongcharan from the Disease Control Department says that Thai people should not panic, as the case is highly unusual and had many specific factors.
People die of this disease almost every year. We can't always pinpoint a certain trend. Some are young, some are old. Some have personal health complications, and some are healthy. We need to look at this case by case.
Dr. Prasad urges parents to bring their children to the hospital even if they are not showing specific symptoms of hand, foot, and mouth disease. He says that if a child has high fever lasting more than 48 hours, they should be taken to hospital immediately. There were 2 other deaths suspected to be caused by hand, foot, and mouth disease. One was a 16-year-old boy in Sakya province, the other a 3-year-old girl from Lopburi province. However, autopsies revealed that they actually died from other causes. Since January, 14,452 people in Thailand have been infected with HFM. The provinces with the highest number of reported cases are Phayao, Chiang Rai, Phuket, Surat Thani, and Rayong. Doctors say the virus had not yet mutated into a more dangerous strain. The National Anti-Corruption Commission, or NACC, unanimously ruled that Supoj Saplong, former Transport Permanent Secretary, is indeed unusually wealthy. The case will be forwarded to the Attorney General to proceed with the seizure of over 40 million baht in his assets. Today, the National Anti-Counter-Corruption Commission, or NACC, unanimously ruled that Supoj Saplong, former Transport Permanent Secretary, to be unusually wealthy. He resigned from his post on May the 18th as speculation over his unusual wealth went viral after his house was burgled earlier this year. The commission also asked for yet another seizure of 44 million baht in assets, as Supoj did not own them prior to taking office and had failed to clarify the true and legal source of those assets. The NACC had previously confiscated 3 properties on 7 plots of land worth around 20 million baht. The commission will forward the case to the Attorney General to take legal action against Supoj. And one of Thailand's biggest exports is, of course, rice. However, in the past year, exports have dropped by almost half. For an explanation of how and why this has happened, here's more with Kun Thanya Kunwong.
For the first time in 30 years, India and Vietnam have overtaken Thailand as the world's largest rice exporters. A 44% drop in jasmine rice exports has pushed Thailand down 3rd place in the world ranking of rice exporters. Associate Professor Thanawat Pavinchai says that the drop was triggered by the slowing of world economy.
Competition in rice export market in the world is quite high, and many competitors, namely India and Vietnam, decrease their price in the global market, and Thai exporter compete very much with them, and they cannot get in some market.
According to statistics, Thai rice is currently 39.3% more expensive than India and Vietnam, after both these countries reduced their selling prices. But the Thai government simply can't afford to do the same. In 2011, the Pheu Thai Party initiated a rice pledging policy meant to benefit small-scale and independent farmers. They agreed to buy rice of any quality at 1,500 baht per ton, twice the amount farmers were receiving before. It is a good deal for the farmers, but the government has spent almost 270 billion baht and is now in debt. Professor Amasya Mala, one of the country's leading rice experts, says that the system is collapsing in on itself.
Around the same time, another 300 billion baht? How long can this go on? Okay? The only thing that will save the government is for there to be a major crop disaster in Asia. You can't run a policy based on expected disaster. Okay? So this policy is totally unsustainable.
Despite debt and inability to sell off rice stocks, the Pheu Thai party remains optimistic about arresting the continuing drop in sales. Former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been quoted in The Economist as suggesting that the government should eliminate private exporters. Professor Shinawatra, however, says that is a terrible idea.
Business sector do the most efficient way, always do that. I think we cannot get rid of business sector in any activity in the capitalism system. I think business sector is very important player in the capitalism.
The government has yet to announce any new plans on rice policy. Tanya Kunwang, Thai PBS.
Thank you, Tanya. And in evaluating the government's first year in office, leading Thai experts in economy are criticizing the state's populist policies for damaging fiscal discipline and also increasing public debt. They have advised the government to focus on sustainable economic reforms while also reducing the number of expensive projects that provide low returns.
At a seminar today, prominent Thai academics on the economy reprimanded the government's work for focusing too much on unsustainable and short-sighted populist policies. They suggested that these would hurt the country's economic structure in the longer run. A considerable amount of public debt has yet to become visible, and if it is taken into account, the country's debt-to-GDP ratio could very well exceed the safety level of 60%.
เวลานี้รัฐบาลมีแผนอยากจะลงทุนเยอะซึ่งผมเห็นด้วยทุกคนก็เห็นด้วย
Right now, the government is investing a lot in flood protection projects and mega basic infrastructure, which colleagues and I agree on, and I believe everyone supports the government in undertaking these projects successfully. However, how are we going to manage the increasing level of public debt? We need to eliminate any unnecessary spending, like on the rice pledging scheme, where we can save a lot of money. We should only be helping those farmers who are truly in need of help.
The state's intervention in commodity prices was also heavily criticized because it distorts market competition. However, the academics did mention that government's intervention is beneficial, but only to products that are part of a market monopoly. In essence, the experts agreed that the policies the government has initiated in its first year in office have been mostly to fulfill their election promises and are not aimed at long-term development. They cautioned the government to place more emphasis on economic reforms, such as investing more in research and development, which now constitutes less than 1% of the country's GDP.
Only 2 days after the opening of the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, female weightlifter Prapawadi Charoenratanatharakoon, widely known as her nickname Ge, became the first Thai athlete to win a gold medal in that tournament. Now, besides her stunning win, Prapawadi also set a new Olympic record with a 126-kilogram clean and jerk lift. However, this year she was dropped from the weightlifting team for the Olympics 2012.
The Nakhon Sawan native, Prapawadi Charoenratanatharakoon, claimed the title in the women's 53-kilogram category weightlifting at Beijing Olympics 4 years ago. She lifted 95 kg in snatch and 126 kg in clean and jerk for a winning total of 221 kg, 8 kg better than South Korean Yoon Jin-hee. Prapawadi's triumph made her Thailand's 6th gold medalist as well as 3rd female Olympic weightlifting champion, following in the footsteps of Udompon Punsak and Pawina Thongsook. The news that Prapawadi has been dropped from the weightlifting team selected to represent Thailand at the London 2012 Olympics came as a big surprise. The lifter admitted to being disappointed but will go on weightlifting, the sport she loves. Prapawadi expressed her hope that this year's team will win gold medals as well. As one of the country's legendary athletes who brought glory and honor to her homeland, Prapawadi will always be remembered with pride by Thai people.
And that's all the time we have for tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night. I'm Supoj saying bye for now. สวัสดีครับ